Our next guest has written an op-ed in the New York Times called "Trump is Making Jimmy Carter's Mistake on Iran and Oil." Here to talk about it is Rosemary Kelanic, who is the director of the Middle East program at Defense Priorities. Rosemary, thank you so much for being with us. So we do see a bit of a respite today, just in terms of where oil prices are. Yesterday, they were up significantly, triple digits, now down slightly, down to $88 a barrel. But this is WTI down, it's $83 a barrel. But this is sort of a temporary relief, because while President Trump says that this war could end very soon, there has to be evidence of that for the markets to actually take that on board. Obviously, if there's no evidence of that, we could see oil prices remain very volatile and continue to rise again. And what will be the impact just in terms of inflationary pressures, Rosemary?
Yes, well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on today. The impact is negative for all the reasons just mentioned before. If the price of oil goes up, oil is a major input for the U.S. economy. That's going to have an inflationary effect on the economy. And in fact, the effect for the United States is worse than it is for many other countries, because the U.S. economy depends so singularly on oil. The U.S. consumes more oil to produce each dollar of its GDP. It consumes more than China, Russia, or any of the
Rosemary, you can still hear me? Okay, good. Just in terms of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, we know that 20% of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump, or actually Pete Hegseth, spoke earlier saying that if Iran continues to choke that supply, that this war will dramatically escalate, that they will bomb Iran 20 times harder, which really just shows you just how dependent the U.S. economy is, of course, on oil, and the devastating consequences, economic consequences for this country if this war continues and if Iran continues to retaliate using the Strait of Hormuz as leverage. If, for example, that does continue to happen, that sort of choke point does continue to be sort of cut off, what would you say were the consequences of that long term?
And the long-term consequences are it could throw, the U.S. economy and potentially the global economy into recession. And that's not necessarily because of actual disruption, but more because of speculative concerns that drive up the prices. So there is a real disruption on the ground. The question is, what are governments going to do with their strategic petroleum stockpiles? And what will businesses do with their oil stockpiles? According to the IEA, the global observed inventory of oil is over 8 billion barrels. So there's plenty of oil out there in the market in storage that can be drawn down to replace some of the oil going through the Strait of Hormuz. The real question is, when is that going to start happening? And will the U.S. lead the way by drawing down from its strategic petroleum reserve?
What is the calculation? Because yesterday we know that G7 finance ministers were meeting to discuss this very issue, and they temporarily decided not to go ahead with that option. What's that calculation about? What are the risks? I mean, a lot of people would assume that drawing down on reserves would be one of the easiest ways to sort of stabilize the markets. Explain the risks there too.
Yeah, so there are risks. And I think, you basically have this free rider problem. So the global market is a giant bathtub, right? Not literally, but economists think of it that way. And when prices go up, it hurts everyone. When prices go down, it benefits everyone. So if various countries like the US or Japan or other IEA countries, if they draw down from their stockpile, the whole world benefits, right? That means China benefits. Right? That means other countries that aren't pulling down from their stockpiles benefit. So the best way to do it is for everybody to get together and decide to do it together. But the United States has been very slow to want to pull down from the SPR. The question is why? Certainly there's speculation in the US that Trump is afraid that if he pulls down oil from the SPR, says he's going to, that's signaling that the war is going to last longer. It takes 2 weeks for SPR oil to make it to the market. So that's signaling he expects at least 2 more weeks for the war to continue. Now, if the US isn't willing to pull down from its stockpile, these other countries, they don't want to pull down from their stockpiles and be the ones who deplete their reserves first, when the US is still sitting on its stockpile and potentially China is too. So there's all those considerations at play as well.
I see. Right, Rosemary Kelanic, thank you. Thank you for breaking that down and explaining that to our audience. We appreciate it.
Thank you.